Hey everyone, this is Chris here, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Chill Tennis Entertainment. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the highly controversial topic of whether or not Jannik Sinner should have even been allowed to take part in the US Open due to the fact that he tested positive for a banned substance twice in the last 6 months. Now, before we get into all that, I'd like to encourage you guys, if you're new to this channel, to please take a minute to hit the subscribe button down below. That'll, of course, keep you notified of any time we release additional content like this. And, of course, if you enjoy videos like this, then please be sure to share this video with your friends. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we get into the heavily controversial topic at hand, I wanted to take a minute to circle back to a handful of comments that I read in my previous video, and I appreciate you guys for pointing this out, that I've apparently been pronouncing Djokovic's name incorrectly for all these years. Actually, the way it's supposed to be pronounced is Djokovic.
You're putting me on.
Not Djokovic, which is what I've been doing since 2006 or 2007, for a long time at least, as far back as I've been watching Djokovic play tennis. So I appreciate you guys for correcting me on that. I'm certainly not going to get the names pronounced correctly every time, but going forward, I will make every effort possible to pronounce the name correctly. Novak Djokovic, not Djokovic. That's for suckers. And you know, thinking about it a little bit, it actually made me think of a match that Roger Federer played against Igor Andreev.
No, it's pronounced Igor.
But they told me it was Igor.
Well, they were wrong then, weren't they?
Well, I guess I can't get anything right when it comes to pronouncing names. Igor Andreev. Okay, there you go. So, anyway, guys, yes, I'm having a little bit of fun with it, but you have to do that kind of thing when you're making these videos. Anyway, let's get into the topic of today's video, which is, did Jannik Sinner just cheat to win the US Open? And a lot of people online surprisingly have been saying that he did, which I think is a very, very interesting statement, and it also speaks volumes as to how much people don't trust the mainstream media, at least in the sport of tennis. And there is a very, very valid reason for not trusting what they have to say. So let's go over why that might be the case. Back in 2009, Andre Agassi released his book Open, which was a really great read. If you guys haven't read Open, make sure you check that out at some point. But one of the most interesting and important parts that came out of that book was the fact that Andre had been using crystal meth for at least a year back in 1997. And at the time, the ATP didn't really do anything with their drug testing to punish him for it. They basically had called him out. They said, "We noticed that you have a trace amount of crystal meth that was found in your urine sample. And do you have any explanation for how it got there?" Andre, of course, said, "Well, I had some Gatorade and it might have been contaminated, and I'm thinking that I was accidentally slipped this crystal meth by accident." And the ATP basically said, "Okay, we'll turn a blind eye, you turned a blind eye, and we'll just keep everything on the straight and narrow going forward, which of course is a terrible thing for the integrity of the sport of the game, because when you have people who are cheating, and as you guys know, I'm a huge Andre Agassi fan, you know, certainly after watching all my Challenge Court videos, I'm sure you guys know that by now. But regardless of whether I'm a fan or not, if Andre's cheating, he shouldn't be allowed to play the sport. And of course, the ATP, knowing that Andre was going to be worth a lot of money to them, basically said, hey, you know what? It's not worth it to us to lose all the money, so we'll just kind of sweep that under the rug for right now. We'll let Andre keep going with his career. And it worked out great for Andre in the end, because he was able to, hopefully, I believe, get off of that stuff and basically turn his entire career around. Of course, he went on to have one of his best seasons ever in 1999 and 2000. But that's besides the point. We shouldn't be allowing cheaters to play Grand Slam events and tennis at all if they're using performance-enhancing drugs. Not that Andre was doing that, of course, but still, it sets a bad standard, especially when lower-ranked players like Martina Hingis get disqualified for supposedly using cocaine. Again, it's a terrible standard when, okay, she's at the end of her career, so we can throw the book at her. But for someone like Andre Agassi or Richard Gasquet, who's basically at the beginning of his career, they're willing to accept some crazy story about him kissing a stripper and somehow getting a small amount of cocaine, and Rafael Nadal vehemently coming to Gasquet's aid saying, hey, he's innocent, he's 100% innocent, you know. And well, how do you know that?
Hello everybody, this is Rafael Nadal here. I just would like to make a comment about the Richard Gasquet type of incident. And I want to say to you that I was there when Richard Gasquet was kissing the stripper. I was sitting right next to him, and I said, you know, Richard, you should not be doing this. But for sure, Richard was not going to stop. He said, I must make out with her, she's really hot, no? So for sure, Richard Gasquet was going to kiss her for a little while, and that is how he got this banned substance into his body. But for sure, Richard Gasquet is very, very innocent, and you should not believe anyone else. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the heavily controversial topic of today's video, which is, how did Jannik Sinner get Clostebol, a known banned ingredient, into his system, and why wasn't he banned from professional tennis? There's a lot of double standards, in my opinion, that go on in professional sports when it comes to lower-ranked players getting kicked out of the game and the organization, if you will, turning a blind eye to top-ranked players who bring in a lot of money for the sport. And I do feel that this is at the center of today's video, but we're going to go ahead first. We're going to back up to when this story came out. And that was in August. It was right before the start of the US Open. I remember watching an interview between Chris McKendry and Darren Cahill, Jannik Sinner's coach, and Darren said in the video that back during Indian Wells in March, Sinner, his trainer, and his physio were all in a room together, and the physio had reached into his medicine bag and he cut his pinky finger on a scalpel that was in the medicine bag, which was used, of course, for removing blisters off of an athlete's foot. So Sinner at the time wasn't aware of this, neither was the trainer. Darren Cahill walks into the room and he notices that the physio was wrapping his finger, and he said, hey, do you need any help with anything? You okay? Do we have to do anything to make sure you're good to go here? And he said, nope, I'm just bandaging my finger, I'm all set. And they proceeded again as normal. Darren said he forgot about it, and until it was brought up later on. And then later that night, the physio met with Jannik Sinner, who, of course, being the very, very concerned person he is, said, did you put anything on that cut that might get me in trouble? Of course, Sinner was concerned about that, but they basically did ask him that question, you know, did you put anything on your finger that would be an issue? And he said, no, it's just bandage at this point. So we know that that he's okay to work on Sinner, because there's nothing illegal that he's putting on to help the recovery process. Now that would change very shortly afterward when Sinner's trainer happened to have a and I need to point this out, that Sinner's trainer has from what I understand, this is according to Darren Cahill, quite an extensive background in sports medicine. He happens to have a spray that has a known banned substance in it, Clostebol. And he offers this to the physio to help with the recovery process for his hand. Now, again, if the guy is really trained that well and he's really that knowledgeable, what is he doing with a spray, you know what I'm saying, that has a known banned substance on the tour? It's just like, even a little bit of that getting into an athlete would automatically trigger a provisional ban for them. It's a very strange thing to be carrying something like that around, I would think, at least. Anyway, so the physio proceeds to put the spray on his finger, and then he starts working on Sinner. Again, remember, no gloves, because there's two things that have to be done in order for this substance to get into Sinner's body. Number one, the person working on him has to have bare hands, and number two, to the best of my knowledge, there has to be a cut, or there has to be some kind of a small skin-related peeling, if you will, so that the substance could get into Sinner's bloodstream, like a wound, a superficial wound. And that's how you would get enough of this substance, Clostebol, into his system so that it would be picked up in the drug test. And Sinner had, at the time, 1/1,000,000th of a gram, which of course is not enough to actually help him. It would be a totally minute, unimportant amount, but it's still an illegal substance, which is why he was flagged twice for that, because it's possible that he had more than that at one time. The highest documented amount that he had was 1/1,000,000th of a gram. Anyway, going back to this. So, a lot of things, when you stop and think about it, really don't add up. You know, why would the physio be handling Sinner with bare hands? Why would he be applying the spray, not checking the ingredients to find out what's in there? Sinner, of course, has to have, again, like I said, some kind of a cut for this to get into his system. So do I think that it's possible that all these extremely unlikely things could come together and could create this perfect storm nightmare for Sinner? I guess, if everybody's as unprofessional as possible, maybe. You know, the trainer giving a spray with a known banned substance to the physio being down in his luck, having to use it, and again, using his bare hands to work on Sinner having a cut. I don't know. It just, to me, I don't think so, if I have to be honest about it. But now we're going to get into the integrity element, the ethical element of this problem, and that's the fact that Sinner, being the #1 player of the world, being the most, or second most, heavily promoted young player on the tour right now, being just 23 years old, having years and years and years in front of him where he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and a draw for the game, and someone that's going to sell a lot of merchandise, put a lot of people in seats to watch him. He's going to create a lot of excitement and buzz for the game. All this promise. Do I think that the treatment for Sinner would be radically different than it would be for a player ranked 200 in the world? Well, of course, guys. There is no way around that. Jannik Sinner is going to be getting special treatment because he's #1. The future of the game basically depends on him, at least from a marketing standpoint. If you have Sinner and Alcaraz as the biggest, most happening rivalry in the sport right now, and you drop off one of those guys, what's it going to do to the game? Well, just think about how the US Open went this year. We had Alcaraz lose in the second round. We had Djokovic out in the third round. So if you took out Sinner, who a lot of people, I guess, had a problem with the fact that he was playing, and for good reason, but they had the problem with the fact that he was playing because he had tested positive for this substance. Who's going to turn out to go watch Tiafoe Fritz or, you know, Casper Ruud or Zverev. I mean, there's going to be fewer and fewer people that want to watch these younger players because they don't have any marketing behind them. They don't have any push behind them. They don't have the excitement behind them. The money hasn't been put there. I get all of that. But first and foremost, we have to have integrity in the game, and that comes before lining your pocketbook. So when it comes to a situation like this with the ITIA, I don't agree with it. I mean, the ITIA's decision to pardon Sinner here has gone about as well as Jerzy Janowicz's singing career. And there was a recent development, of course, in the case, which is that WADA chose to appeal Sinner's case. They looked into it, they did their own investigative research, and they found that Jannik Sinner was responsible, and they recommended a 1 to 2 year ban for Sinner. And CAS has actually given a statement just recently where they said they found nothing wrong with WADA's appeal. So there is a very good chance that Jannik Sinner is going to be banned next year for a period of time. Now, whether it's a year, or 2 years, or 6 months, or 3 months, we don't know. But this is not going to go away. This story is going to continue to build, and we're just getting into it now. I want to let you guys know on that. This is not going to be going away in the next few weeks. In terms of the double standard, I think that we know there's a bit of an issue with internal politicking, and you could call it corruption in the sport. It is a business, it's like anything else, and it's prone to being it's prone to having decisions go a certain way when money's involved, and a lot of money, of course, is involved with this. So those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know if you think that Sinner was guilty, if he should be banned for a period of time, and just how you feel about the whole situation. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I will see you at the next one.